All right, so this is a reading in your classroom, and I'm going to get a little nerdy to begin with because I want to talk about the science of reading. You imagine you just blend in with the chair.
Oh, I didn't know.
All right, so I want everybody to read this quotation. So reading is not natural. Our brains are designed for sound, as the chorus and the band teacher both know well. Your brain is designed for sound. Your brain is not designed to read. You're taking sounds, making a code, forming them into print for your brain to understand it. So how does reading work in the brain? It works in different parts of the brain. I'm not going to read this slide to you, but if you want to investigate it a little more, there's an URL there. But it's different parts of your brain. It's not just one section of the brain. All right, so this is your partner activity. I want you to read this slide, and then I want you to take about 30 seconds to talk about what impacts you from this slide. So what are your thoughts on that? Anything stand out to you about that? So what stands out to you?
That they were able to pinpoint this many milliseconds. Like it's that fast.
It is that fast. And don't you see these students in your classroom, the ones that it takes them forever to read something and the ones just read it and have done? All right, so this is a simple view of reading, okay? Simple view of reading, you have to have decoding. That's the ability to apply sound-symbol relationships to read words, okay? You've got to know that those words are comprised of sounds and what those sounds stand for. But you also have to have language comprehension, the ability to understand spoken language. And these are actually two different areas in the brain that are working together. And that's how you get reading comprehension. So this is just another view of reading. And when we talk about the science of reading, we're really talking about the science behind reading. We're talking about the neuroscience. We're talking about the psychology. We're talking about the linguistics. It's very quantifiable. So I want to point out something here. You can be really smart. You can have all of this stuff. You can have background knowledge. You can have vocabulary. You can understand lots of things about the world. But if you have a problem with phonological awareness or decoding or even sight word recognition, you are not a skilled reader. Now, to bring that home, 78 students are on my team. 37 of those students are reading with elementary level phonics skills. That's 48% of one team in our building. So when you think about our kids as readers, we have a lot of kids that are below level readers. And reading skill is a huge indicator of performance in graduation in high school and college. Coach K came a few years ago, and one of the things that he said was that reading level is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, indicator of graduation in Walker County. Mm-hmm. I tried to get him to confirm that. I sent an email. He didn't email me back, but that's pretty staggering when you think about it. It's not relationships, it's not demographics, it's not economy, it's your reading level that has so much impact on your future. So, this is where all the teachers go, but I don't know how to teach reading. But you can. You're an expert in education. You have a degree to prove it. You can be successful teaching kids to read and write in your classroom with a little bit of guidance. Using even just a few strategies will improve your instruction, student understanding, and your scores. So let's talk about how this works. I told you all this was a nerdy presentation. Okay, so there's different things that have to happen when you're learning a vocabulary word. Okay, so what's a word, Carol, what's a word that 6th grade kids come to band not knowing that they need to know?
Allegro.
Allegro?
Yes.
Okay, allegro. So for them to really understand what allegro means, they've got to see it written, they've got to write it, they've got to speak it, they've got to hear it, and they've got to understand it in context. So once they do all of those things, then it's processed in their brain. That's a lot of steps, right? They've got to read it, they've got to write it, they've got to speak it, they've got to hear it, and they've got to see it used in context for them to really understand what any word means. So let's look at some examples, and I should have used a I should have used a chorus or the ag examples are a little easier, but so just for example, biography. When I'm teaching kids the word biography, I say it, I have them say biography, and you say biography. Okay, so this is how it's written, but then I also talk about the parts of the word. Bio means life. Graph means writing. So when you're talking about biography, you're talking about life writing, and you're associating that meaning with it. Okay, what about circuit? What does circ mean? Circ means circle. Where else have you heard circ? Circumference, okay? Or decimal. And like math teachers especially have a great opportunity to teach morphology, which is what chunks of the words mean. Decimal, des means 10. Decade, a lot of examples. But they need to hear the word, they need to say the word, they need to have context with the word, they need to read the word, they need to write the word. So if you are truly wanting them to understand vocabulary, they've got to have all three parts of that. So reciprocal reading, bringing it up to their level. Reciprocal reading is when you bring a grade level text up to the rest of the learners in the classroom. Okay, so if we say that we have a big chunk of kids that read below grade level, how do I get them to understand the text that's on their grade level? Okay, maybe you are, maybe in Miss Each's class, they're reading a couple paragraphs about Impressionism. Okay, well, they're not all going to understand that little section of article. So what can you do? And these are research-based strategies. Okay, so in a group, you can have someone that's making a prediction. You can have somebody that's questioning, making questions. You can have somebody that summarizes the article at the end. And in most groups, you're going to have a higher reader and a lower reader. And that way, they all have a piece in it and they all engage in it. Now, it doesn't just happen. You have to teach them how to do that, obviously.
Hello and welcome to Teachings in Education, Reciprocal Teaching. This video will cover everything you ever wanted to know about reciprocal teaching, including different strategies and roles. Now, let's begin with the why of reciprocal teaching. First off, it teaches students how to use questioning. Students must ask questions in order to clarify misunderstandings or missing concepts. Research has shown that reciprocal teaching actually increases comprehension of readings and subject content. Reciprocal teaching can also be seen as a metacognitive learning strategy. Students can use these strategies as they advance in their academic careers. It's also a great way for teachers to get a dialogue going in the classroom. In this way, students are participating in the lesson. And perhaps most importantly, for students, it's a form of active learning, where students are engaged in a student-centered lesson. Next, we'll take a look at just one of the many ways to implement reciprocal teaching. Step 1. Teach all students the Fab 4 learning strategies, which include questioning, clarifying, summarizing, and predicting. All will be covered in detail. Next, teachers can gather students into small groups and assign them roles of the Fab 4 strategies. Third, the teacher begins the reading and asks questions. Students take notes using the strategies they were taught. Next, students take the role of the teacher by leading the discussions and asking questions themselves, all with the purpose of extracting meaning from the text. Lastly, the teacher closely monitors and offers guidance. Again, this is just one of many variations on reciprocal teaching. Now let's examine one of the Fab 4 learning strategies, questioning, which essentially involves readers asking themselves questions throughout the text. Students should ask themselves questions such as, what are some ideas and themes from the text? When students take on the questioner role in reciprocal teaching, any question that comes to mind should be written down. The questioner will ask others in the group, or even answer it themselves and then share. It is important that the questions are created while searching for meaning from the text. On to the next of the Fab 4, which is summarizing. Here, readers discriminate for essential information in the text. In summarizing, students identify the main idea and themes, whereas for questioning, students identify sub-themes and supporting ideas. The summarizer role usually comes near the end of the passage or reading text. Summarizers must get the, quote, gist of the reading, and make sure that everybody else gets it as well. To best convey the gist to others, it's best to use short and concise statements, making it easy for everyone to understand. Real quick, I want to ask that you subscribe to this channel. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. and check the description for resources on reciprocal teaching. Now let's get back to it. Here we have clarifying. Readers assess their own understanding of the text. It begins by first identifying difficulties and misunderstandings while reading. Clarifying does require some outside research at times. The role of the clarifier is to find answers and to clarify some of the ideas and questions posed by the group, as well as elaborate whenever there is an opportunity to do so. In general, when reading a passage, students must clear up any confusion by looking at the context clues or looking up definitions of vocabulary. Continuing on to predicting, usually the first of the 4 strategies used in reciprocal teaching. Students simply predict what they think they'll learn from the text. This requires students to sometimes tap into any prior knowledge that they have. For example, a text about baseball elicits prior knowledge on the sport. The predictor role may begin the reciprocal teaching cycle by predicting where the text may take the readers. Readers can hypothesize by paying particular attention to headings, titles, and pictures. They may also skim and scan the text to make more educated guesses. And now we'll get to the last section, which are different types of reciprocal teaching lessons. One way to carry out reciprocal teaching is to have just the teacher lead the discussion, and all students must read the text and are responsible for all 4 roles. You could also have one student take the lead role and all others are responsible for all 4 roles. And even another type of reciprocal teaching is where all students cycle through the Fab 4 and no one is the leader. Again, there are many variations to reciprocal teaching. You have to find out what's best for your classroom. Right now, I want to say thank you for your time. Subscribe, like, and share this video. Also, don't forget to check the resources in the description below.
CSR stands for Collaborative Strategic Reading. It's kind of the same thing. Before you read something, you preview it. Okay? So before you read a piece of music, all right guys, let's skim through this piece of music. What do you see here that stands out to you in this? Okay, is it the tempo? Well, I don't know, I'm just scratching my straws here, but is it what stands out to you about this piece of music? Okay, what do you already know about this tempo? Okay, what do you think this piece of music is going to sound like when we do it together? All right, and then look for clunks, look for words that you don't understand. And a great strategy for this is, let's say you, Tiffany, have them reading an article about, what are you guys working on right now? Plants?
Plant science.
Plant science. Okay, guys, we're going to read this article about plant science. Are there any words in here that you think another 7th grader might have trouble with? That way you take the pressure off of them. You're not saying, what words are you having trouble with? What are some challenging words in here another 7th grader might have trouble with that we need to talk about for everybody? Okay. Fix-up strategies, get the gist, what's the most important information, and then you wrap it up. Okay? Question and review. Okay, so what was this about? And review the most important information. This takes time, whether you're doing it with a piece of music or you're doing it with an article, but it is research-based and it really does help the whole group understand it better. All right, so this is stuff you guys already know. These are critical thinking strategies you can use in your classroom no matter your content. Developing questions while reading, looking back for keywords and rereading in order to clarify or answer questions, visualizing or picturing what they read, okay? All right, guys, you've looked at this piece of music. I want you to close your eyes. Can you hear it in your head? If I clap it, can you hear it? Can you see it? Making predictions about what will come next in the text. Okay, so here's the first page of music. What do you think is going to be on the second page of music? Have we gotten to the bridge yet? Okay, so there's your prediction. Okay, we haven't gotten to the bridge yet. What do you think the bridge is going to sound like here? Discussing or activating prior knowledge. Does this sound like any other song that you know? Does this plant follow the same growing cycle that another plant that you know does? Right? Connecting what they're reading to another text. Have you seen something, experienced something that's like this? You guys said, okay, does this song remind you of anything you're seeing on TikTok right now? Okay. Most importantly, you got to model it. Okay, you've got to show them your thinking. You got to think aloud to model the strategies and thought processes needed for comprehension. So a lot of times I talk about how I'm reading something as I read it. So in Ms. Walters' class, you're reading an article about plants. Ms. Walters might say, you know, I'm wondering, as I'm reading this, if they're gonna talk about blah, blah, blah coming up. And just modeling those strategies. And if you, when you get the slideshow, if you click on that, there's some other thinking aloud strategies. All right, I'm gonna stop talking for a minute, and I want you guys to take a couple of minutes to look at these two infographics and this one here. You can get up, and I know you might wanna get up and come look at them, and then we're gonna talk about them together. So what I'm wanting you to look at is, what is one thing that is standing out to you the most from either these two infographics or this one? So this is the participation part, sorry. You gotta get up. That wasn't quite tall enough. Got about a minute left on the timer, but you probably don't need the whole time. But you might. All right, so this is just some more resources if you want them. I do want you to scan this now because I know you have your phones and or your computers. Okay, so it's just 3 questions, and it just kind of is a reflection on today.